Do you feel like a kid on Christmas morning? Because I know I do. Waking up, coming down the stairs, wondering if there's presents under the tree. Well, I've got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. There are presents under the tree in the form of NFL Week 1 football. Yes, it's finally here. This is no exaggeration. This level of excitement is Christmas morning. Presents under the tree, that new bike maybe you always wanted, that PlayStation you were hoping to get. Did mom and dad come through for you? You bet they did. And guess what? The NFL is coming through for you as well. We've got a full NFL slate, wonderful primetime games, even got a Friday night game. Let's get into the plays. Now, this show is going to be kind of like a 10,000 foot overview. We're not going to dive exactly like down into the data and the minutia of every single player prop that I like for the week. You can find those in the link below, in the comments below there. I've posted those. I posted some free plays to my blog, thehulkbets.blog. You can find all of that there. This is an overview of each game. We're going to go game by game, point out some key injuries, some things, some angles that might affect in each game. And then I'm just going to give you some angles that maybe you haven't been thinking about. That's what this show is for. I'm going to put this out every single week. Do me a favor before we get into it, though. You already know what I'm going to say. Subscribe to the channel. I need 17 subs to hit 1,000. If I don't hit it with this video, with that intro, then I might as well just hang it up. It's not going to get any better than that. Christmas morning, a Christmas morning intro doesn't get me 17 new subscribers, then I've got nothing else to bring to the table. But if you are here, if you feel the urge to be generous with your subs, please do me a favor and drop me one. Like the video, follow, comment for more, all of the above, do all the things. Let's get to the first game. The first game is a primetime. Again, 10,000 foot view. Not going to dive deep into it because I am going live before this game for primetime parlays. But the injury notes from this game, really the major one that we're concerned about from a fantasy, from a betting standpoint, is the Chiefs are without Marquise Brown. Hollywood Brown will not play in this game. That is confirmed. So little boost to Xavier Worthy, little boost to Rashee Rice, in my opinion. I don't think this really hurts the Chiefs overall from a can they win the game perspective. The only thing you really have to worry about there is just, home opener, coming off the Super Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowls. Is this a letdown situation potentially against a very good team who is hungry? You've heard the story of the wolf climbing the mountain and the wolf that's already at the top. Is the wolf that stayed at the top for 2 straight years able to be as hungry as all those that are clawing and climbing to try to get up that mountain? That is what we will find out in week 1. I don't have much to look at as far as the over or the under here. I think you could make a good case for both of them because if teams come out rusty, then, this game could definitely see the under. 47 total isn't the highest by any means on the slate. It's a little bit towards the top half of the over-under totals for the slate, but nothing really that I'm going to get into there. Again, I have a couple of handful of plays here, but I will say is the DK DraftKings has a boost that is a plus 100 on Derrick Henry or Travis Kelce to score a touchdown, not and, or. Play that, max it out. I think my max was $20 or $25 for that. I maxed it out. That's a great play for this game. And if you want more about this game, catch me tomorrow night going live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right up until lock, right up until kickoff at 8 p.m. for this game. We're going to build out some plays for that. So that's the last I'll say about this game. The next game we've got is another primetime game. That's the Friday night game between the Packers and the Eagles. It is in Brazil. Wideout Romeo Doubs and Tucker Kraft were 2 of the players that were listed as questionable or limited participants in practice on Wednesday. I think ultimately that Doubs plays and Tucker Kraft does not play. That's my opinion here. Looking at this game, we have a 49-point spread in it with the Eagles being favored to win. I think an interesting player prop that you could talk me into is Saquon 2+ at a plus 500. Again, we're talking a sprinkle bet when we're talking about a plus 500 here. This will not be a part of my $10,000 to $10,000 challenge that I'm going to be doing. But I do think that it's possible I start throwing some of these in there because they are quick ways to climb the ladder and level up your profits. But again, 2 touchdowns is not easy. I'm just thinking that if the tush push plays start to go to Saquon instead of Jalen Hurts, we could easily see a 2+ touchdown from Saquon. If this team moves the ball as I expect them to against this Green Bay defense, gets into the red zone a couple of times, why wouldn't you give it to your new toy, Saquon Barkley, rather than throwing your quarterback right up the middle there and risking injury in game one? So I think that's an interesting play here. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else I'm really looking at for this game. The next game we have is the Buffalo Bills and the Arizona Cardinals. One thing that I thought was interesting is that I was taking a look at Josh Allen's passing yardage under Joe Brady. And it looks like Joe Brady took over in November, early November, and I'm seeing that he was under his passing line in 6 out of 9 games here. It looks like he went over 2 games back to back in November for throwing for 275 and 339. Then one more game against Miami where he threw 359 in a shootout. Other than that, he was under this line of 247.5 points or 247.5 yards in 6 out of those 9 games there, coming in with numbers like 177, 233, 94, I believe was against Dallas, 237, 169, 203, and 186. So not even really that close to the line. Like 2 of those games, he kind of flirted with the line a little bit for sure. But other than that, like didn't even really come close to that. I think that's interesting. If the Bills can stay ahead in this game or keep it competitive, I do think you see a scenario where they try to lean on James Cook like they did last year, especially after Joe Brady took over. Also, Josh Allen, the Bills have had some turnover in their weapons. Probably doesn't have that guy like a Stephon Diggs here, obviously. Does he have that chemistry with Khalil Shakir? Maybe. Does he have that chemistry with Curtis Samuel? Probably not. You could see Dalton Kincaid show up, but he's not a field-stretching player. So I'm very interested in taking a look at this 247.5 yards for passing yards for Josh Allen to the under potentially. It's a minus 115 right now on DK. Do a little shopping. See if you can find that at like a 250.5 passing yards. So obviously give yourself the best chance there. The next game I'm looking at is the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Miami Dolphins. And I'm a little bit interested in something here. Brian Thomas Jr., the young rookie for the Jags, 40+ yards. I was just playing around with some parlays and seeing what I can do here because I'm a true degenerate and parlays are where my heart lies. And you could go 40+ for Brian Thomas Jr., high over under in this game, by the way, of 49 points, and go with Tyreek Hill 100+ for a plus 222 on DraftKings. I think what's interesting there is that could speak to a little bit of a shootout in this game, which I absolutely think we could see. And I was taking a look at Tyreek Hill's numbers, and it's very interesting. Even after the incredible year he had last year, if you look back at his receptions, it's basically like, I don't want to say he was boom or bust, but he'd either have like 40 receiving yards, 62, 70 maybe, or he'd have like 180, 160, 146, 157. He had very few games where he hovered around that 100. He had about 3 games, it looks like, where he really hovered around that 100 range. But, give me the over here. Give me Tyreek Hill, and you could even take a look at Tyreek and just do like 120+. I mean, I think that's interesting, but I don't hate the Brian Thomas. 40+ yards. The guy's uber talented. We already saw in preseason that he's got a decent chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. So, like, I mean, I don't hate something like that at a plus 375. Throw a little quarter unit on it or something, maybe not a full unit, but just do something like that. Or if you really just love Tyreek and you think Tyreek's just going to go nuclear, then do something like this. Let's just take a look at Tyreek Hill. Let's go. Actually, I think I do have to alt it, don't I? I'm going to do Tyreek Hill, SGP. Give me Tyreek to score a touchdown. And let's throw his like 120 yards and just see what that looks like here. Oh, I'm in the wrong category. Receiving. Tyreek Hill receiving. Give me 120+. That's a plus 250. And basically you're saying Tyreek has a game like he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times last year. 6 games out of 17. If you want something with a little bit better hit rate, you could do something like 80+, which he hit that line in 65% of the games last year. It's a plus 100. All you need is a touchdown out of him. He scored in 12 of 17 games last year. So quick math, this is like a 58% hit rate, something like that. 58% hit rate that he gets 80+. implied probability, and 80 plus and a Tyreek Hill touchdown, plus 100. That's not bad. I actually personally think I like, if you're going to go for it, go with like the 110 or the 120 because he hit that in 6 games last year. So I think that's an interesting angle. I do anticipate this ends up being a high scoring game. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, build out something that fits that narrative, in my opinion. By the way, if you're watching this video and you're like, hey, he missed a game. Yeah, I missed the Cincinnati and New England game. Jamar Chase returned to practice today, was a limited participant. That game's like a 41-point total. I'm sure there's some value in there. There's some interesting angles and opportunities. Not my favorite spot. I think there's a couple of better spots, definitely better games we can attack. It's week 1. I deserve to be picky. Give me some of these exciting games, some of these shootout potential, some of these really good matchups, all these primetime games. I'm honestly just not going to really waste my time on betting on a game like Cincinnati or New England. Apologies to any New England or Cincinnati fans. Cincinnati, especially your team, could be very exciting. New England, bright future potentially with Drake May. Just for betting purposes alone this week, I'm going to stay away from that game. Now, the next game, if you know me and you've watched my videos, is very near and dear to my heart. This is my beloved Colts of Indy against the Houston Texans, our division rivals now, it seems like. I don't want to be too biased here, but I don't mind the points here, taking that. I don't mind the Indianapolis Colts plus 124 money line at home. They split with them last year. They split with the Texans last year, okay? It's not like they got blown out or decimated. They won one, they lost one. They won one with Gardner Minshew, they lost one with Gardner Minshew. And the game they lost came down to a 4th down play at the very end, which I believe if they had picked that up, they go on to win that game. They had all the momentum. If you guys watch football, obviously you watch football, you're watching this video. Football is all about momentum. Most sports all about momentum. A momentum shifting play like that occurred, and it crushed them. Now, that's the way it goes. They won fair and square. However, what I'm getting at is that they did not blow the Colts out of the water. And if anything, the Colts are stronger now. Give me A-Rich, give me A.D. Mitchell back in this game. I love what the Colts have. And yes, I'm a little bit biased, but I do think it's a real possibility that we see a Colts win. Now, if we do, what about something? I probably have to do this. Hold on. If the Colts win, if you can believe my narrative, if I have sold you on the beloved Colts winning week 1, then this is the parlay for you, my friends. Indianapolis Colts money line, and Anthony Richardson scores an anytime touchdown. He scored a rushing touchdown in basically every game he played, every game last year. He's incredible. Give me a Rich to score a touchdown and for the Colts to win this game as a plus 300. I love it. I think it's definitely worth a little dabble, a little sprinkle, a little touch, a little taste, just so you guys can be rooting for the same thing I'm rooting for as a community, as a family. We're going to come together and root for the Colts in this game, and this is the parlay to do it within. If you think I'm crazy and you don't think it comes to fruition, you say, David, the Houston Texans are just too good. CJ Stroud's going to run through that team. I don't care if it's a home opener or not. Nico Collins is going to have his way with him like he always has, which is true. You're not wrong there. Then fade this entirely. But this is something that's interesting to me. I think it's a good angle. I think it fits the narrative. If the Colts are going to win, Anthony Richardson has a big game, and he probably runs one in because he's a freak. The next game that's worth discussing from a sports betting and a fantasy perspective, in my opinion, is the Tennessee Titans against the Bears. And yes, if you are a Bears fan, you are revitalized. You are pumped. You've got the maybe great Caleb Williams. He's looked great so far in preseason, had a great college career. I mean, my goodness, the guy could not have had a better preseason debut, in my opinion. He looked incredible, throwing on the run across his body, lasers, darts, touch passes to Rome Odunze. My goodness, the guy looked great. So if you are a Bears fan, rejoice because you have hope finally. Now, I think an interesting angle would be something like this. Just build out a narrative. If you guys think that this game turns into a potential shootout, which it looks like Vegas might, because it's a 48.5-point total at this time, throw a little Caleb Williams, 225 plus passing yards, and him to throw 2 touchdowns to this slurry of wide receivers that he has available to him in the 3-headed monster that he has, just like Houston's got a 3-headed monster out there at receiver. Caleb Williams has his own 3-headed monster that would rival theirs potentially. And I think it's very likely he throws 2 touchdown passes in this game because they don't have the strongest running game. You got DeAndre Swift there. You've got Rojo. You've got a couple of guys that are going to fill out that backfield, but there's no clear-cut guy. And they're going to let Caleb Williams do his thing, I think, especially if the Titans cannot blow it and keep this game close and keep this game competitive. If Will Levis doesn't just stink in this game, I think you get a back and forth scoring, very little defense, up and down the field, hopefully fast pace of play action. Again, we're hypothesizing here because nobody has ever seen Caleb Williams play an actual regular season NFL football game. But I think he comes out. I think he throws 225 plus at least and 2 touchdown passes. Play the 225 plus, play it with the 2 touchdowns, and move on. The next game on the schedule, you kind of got 2 of them here. Listen, from a fantasy perspective, maybe. From a sports betting perspective, I'm not really that interested in the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants this week from that matchup, okay? That doesn't mean that won't change. That doesn't mean they don't have good players on the teams. But from a sports betting perspective, I have one play for the New York Giants. If you follow me, it is in my VIP picks link down below. It says Patreon there. That's my VIP picks channel. I posted a play there a couple of days ago. That's the play I like from this game. I really like that play from this game, but I won't get into that now because it's not the most exciting game to bet on. And kind of the same thing for the Steelers and Falcons and the Carolina Panthers and the Saints. We're talking about 41 to 42 point totals. Not there's not value there. There's some plays to the under. I do think the Saints win, but I'm very interested to see how Dave Canales has this offense humming. If he can get Bryce Young to play more like the college Bryce Young instead of rookie season NFL Bryce Young who stunk, then I might have some interest in that team week 2. Deontay Johnson could be a great player. I want to see a little bit more before I go deep into betting on a couple of those games. And then again, you've got the same thing. Seattle Seahawks and Denver Broncos. I love me some Geno Smith. I love me some DK Metcalf in best ball, in fantasy. From a sports betting week 1 perspective, I don't think I'm going to do too much with them, just being honest with you guys. So if you want a little bit of a view, I will touch on the Seattle Seahawks just for a brief minute, just because I do have so much love for these guys. I think a DK Metcalf at plus 165 anytime touchdown is interesting enough to put a little 10th of a unit bet on it, potentially. Try to find better odds, though. You might be able to get a 185 somewhere. But DK Metcalf, I think, is going to have maybe the best season he's had since being a pro in the NFL. I love the offense that Grubb's about to run. I love what Geno can do for him. I think it's a perfect fit for Geno. I've talked about that all offseason. I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is and take DK Metcalf to score a touchdown, 165. Feel free to pair it with, him to catch a deep pass. So let's go like something like a maybe 70 plus. There you go. DK Metcalf to score a touchdown in 70 plus receiving yards. So he catches 150-yard bomb and a couple other passes and he's there. No problem. Plus 330. I love those odds for a player of DK Metcalf's caliber in what I believe is going to be a high-scoring offense. I don't care that they're playing a bad team that might want to slow the game down and this game isn't the most exciting. I do think that if they're running at the pace that they ran at the preseason and they ran 70% motion and they're trying to go from last to top 10 in snaps per game, I like that for DK Metcalf in this offense. So I'm willing, again, to put my money where my mouth has been all offseason and even place a bet on it. There's a couple other games here that aren't really ones that are super enticing, and Dallas kind of falls into that category, to be honest. However, I know there's a ton of Cowboys fans out there, and I do think there is a bet in here that I like. Actually, maybe even 2. CeeDee Lamb at a plus 130 to score a touchdown. TD Lamb, who absolutely was Mr. Touchdown from the wide receiver position last year. I like those odds a lot. I think they're really good odds for a guy that went like 7 or 8 games straight towards the end of the season there scoring touchdowns. Some of those games had 2+. And Jerome Ford is actually interesting here too. At a 135, plus 135, Jerome Ford to score a touchdown. No Nick Chubb. I think that could be an interesting little parlay. Put those two guys a plus 445. I'm very intrigued, ladies and gentlemen. I am getting out the Microsoft snipping tool here, and I'm going to just snip, snap that play right there and save that one for later. That's a plus 445 for teams that I think you can probably predict, especially for the Cowboys, where the touchdowns are going to come from. And then you're telling me a very good running back who's going to get all the workload in Jerome Ford is a plus 135. And you put them together, it's a plus 445. Yes, please. I do have interest in that. A game I'm not really going to talk about, but a line I think is interesting. So I'm going to highlight it in this video for you guys. Always want to try to provide value, even in the games that are not that enticing, not that exciting. And a perfect example of this is Mike Evans, Washington Commanders against Tampa Bay Bucks. Mike Evans has scored a touchdown as a plus 120. Now shop the odds. See if you could find them better somewhere else. I like these odds. A plus 120, I'm fine with. A plus 130, 140, maybe 135. I'm even more than thrilled about. Mike Evans is a guy who was a big touchdown red zone target all through his entire career, and last year was no exception. He scored in 63% of the games last year, played in 19 games because of the playoffs, scored in 12 out of the 19, had a couple of multi-touchdown weeks there. Give me Mike Evans in this game to score a touchdown at a plus 120. I like the idea of even parlaying that together with something else. Some of the other touchdowns, him and CeeDee Lamb to score a touchdown, that's a great little parlay right there for guys that are scoring touchdowns at a very high rate from the wide receiver position. And another guy I like, you see that's on the screen here. This is a fantastic game. I am going to be doing a pre-game kickoff stream for this game. So I'm not going to dive too deep into this because I'm going to be talking about this game at length for an hour long straight and building out some fun parlays. But I do think you could talk me into a David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown parlay. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is injured though, so I'm very curious to see if he plays, and if so, how is his health in that game? If he is going to be limited in any real capacity, then I probably would just stay away from it because I don't need week one to have the injury bug bite me. Now, you also have Kyren Williams sitting here at a minus 110. I think I like Kyren in this game at a minus 110, a little bit better than even maybe David Montgomery. Now, I'm thinking that the books have set this line as such because you've got two very capable receivers, although Puka was not great in the red zone last year. Cooper Kupp is great in the red zone last year. I think you could easily throw someone like him in there. Now, as you can see, there are a lot of options in this game, which is why it's going to be great that I devote a full hour to this game alone. But these are some guys I'm highlighting, some guys I'm looking at to score touchdowns, guys that have scored a lot of touchdowns, especially over last year. Again, that's the season we're looking at right now. But a guy like Kyren Williams, who has scored so many touchdowns last season, is an interesting play here. But if you want better odds, go with a guy like Cooper Kupp, who we know Matt Stafford loves in the red zone. And Mike Evans is a great play from that other game. In the final game, a real beauty, a real chef's kiss gem of a game is the Monday Night Football matchup between the Jets and the 49ers. Now, again, same story as the other primetime games. I'm going to be going live for about an hour before each one of these games, so I'm not going to dive too deep into them, even though we could, and they're juicy, and there's tons of options in these games. However, I will just highlight something. Do me a favor. Tune into those other streams, though, because we're going to be having some fun building out some wild parlays, some smaller ones that I think have a really high likelihood of success, and then some true lottos where if they win, you're paying off your car, you're buying your mama a house, that kind of thing. We're going to have all of them. We're going to be doing all sorts of degenerate things. So please tune into every one of my primetime parlays, game nights, and those are going to be a great time and wild. Now, Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall is a plus 282 here. Two guys I think are very likely to score a touchdown. Now, if you also want to go with a Jets onslaught, I mean, it's hard to take CMC out of anything because the guy's missed their touchdown, right? So I think it's probably wise to leave him in most of your plays for this game, but not all, because nothing's a lock. If you think it's a little bit of a Jets onslaught, okay, no problem. You can get there two guys that are most likely to be the ones scoring the touchdowns. I know you have Mike Williams there. Fine. I get it. But the two guys with the highest likelihood of scoring a touchdowns there, throw them in with CMC. That's a cool little plus 1,000. Easy. Easy. That's an easy one right there. So there's a ton of options. There's tons of ways we can attack this game, and we will do so Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, leading up to this game. Let me throw it back up on the screen. Let me put my face up there. Listen, guys, if you made it this far into the video, congratulations. You have won the prize. You are a true degenerate like myself, but it's NFL week 1. I don't blame you. I won't fault you. Your secret's safe with me. All right? We are the same. We are one. We are kindred spirits, you and I. Appreciate you guys checking this out. If you haven't done so already, like the video, comment on the video. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what you didn't like. Let me know what I got right, what I got wrong. Tell me I'm a goof. Put an emoji in there, whatever you want to do, but drop me a like and a subscription. I appreciate it.